but I don't think you're going to
hydro.
see that from a politician. I don't think a politician's going to stick their neck out. I think it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be so prevalent in the public narrative. It's going to have to be so prevalent in the zeitgeist that they think politically it's okay to be a proponent of it.
Well, I think the younger generation is changing the numbers and the demographics of that. I think 60%, I'm reading, are pro-nuclear now.
That's great.
In the U.S.
It's probably TikTok.
Well, maybe.
It might be.
But, you know, it's a new generation. They're more scared about climate change than they are about war.
Yeah.
And a lot of the older generation, they confuse nuclear energy with nuclear bomb are dying off. And I think there is going to be a change. It has to be. There's no other way.
There has to be. It's just
on top of it, it's a miracle. It's a incredible. If it's handled correctly, built correctly, like Hyman Rickover did with the Navy. The Navy was one of the biggest developers of nuclear in America.
Yeah.
From the 1950s. They built nuclear submarines, and they kept going. They're still
just
going.
Talk about the power in a nuclear submarine, how long it lasts, too.
Yeah. One small reactor can run a submarine for how many? 50, 60 years.
That's
before
insane.
It needs. And also, if you put two of them into an aircraft carrier, you've seen the size of those.
Yeah.
That's it's a giant 6,000 people on that thing. That can go for. Also, the two reactors can make, that's what they're doing, actually. Two reactors can make an aircraft carrier go for, I don't know how many years, 50 years, 40 years.
That's insane. It's incredible. I mean, it really is, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it, no.
The fact that's not something that people marvel at.
No.
That you have a ship at sea that's powered entirely by nuclear power, and it can go for 50 years or whatever it is.
We try to show that in the film. I mean, it's just a miracle.
It's insane. It's so much different than anything else. And if you just do it right, like they do with the submarines, or like they do with...
You need discipline, and you need to do it, and you need to redo it and do it and do it. So you standardize it. The United States never standardized it. Japan did. Korea did. They built one type of reactor, and they built it consistently. Just recently, Korea built four heavy water reactors, big ones, in UAR, the United Arab Republic. Four of them, 1.4 gigawatts each. A gigawatt's a billion watts. And so it's 5.6 gigawatts. That's a huge amount for the United Arab Republic. They'll cover a huge area.
That's incredible.
That's the kind of building you need to do, but you have to do it consistently.
Didn't the phrase? Go ahead, please.
And by the way, you can ship it too. You know, if you assembly line it, like in Korean shipyards or something, you can build it in a way that with SMRs, parts, you can put the parts in and ship them like a Lego set. Down, up and down the coastline of China or the coastline of America, any country. Russians did that in Pevek, which is an Arctic outpost. They sent a barge. The Greenpeace, of course, predicted it would be a nuclear Titanic, and it wasn't. It arrived in Pevek, and it's set up, and it's working beautifully to this day. So SMRs are shippable, and they can be built in shipyards. They can be assembled by the thousands. There's no reason not to.
Now, what about if one of those things sinks?
Yeah, well, water absorbs it, absorbs radiation.
Well, so, like, what happens when there have been nuclear submarines that have sunk, right?
Well, if they did, there's been no damage that I know of.
Isn't the phrase "can neither confirm nor deny"? Doesn't that come from? I think that comes from an operation. I believe I heard this on Radiolab. I think that phrase comes from an operation where they were trying to recover a Russian downed submarine.
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
And they had to answer the question. And so when they were questioned, their answer was, we can neither confirm nor deny.
Right.
Because they were put in a position where they were supposed to interact. So how do we say this? We can't lie. We can't say, no, we're not going to tell you, because we have to answer. So the answer they came up with is, we can neither confirm nor deny, which is it's very eloquent. If you really think about it, if you want to be a bullshit artist, like, that's an amazingly eloquent statement.
That was the one that Howard Hughes was involved in, Globar.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, Howard Hughes.
Yeah,
was
that sounds
involved.
right. Yeah.
Never heard more about it. Whatever happened, happened. It was, the world's not.
The world didn't end.
That's the thing about nuclear.
Right.
People say, well, when something goes wrong, it really goes wrong. But
there's no evidence for
that's
that.
That's an
though.
exaggeration too.
But in comparison to the things that we absolutely know go wrong with just transportation, just driving. Like, deaths are inevitable when you have hundreds of millions of people. Obviously, you want to mitigate them as much as possible. You want to mitigate dangers as much as possible. But we're just victim of, like, bad narrative.
Industrial accidents, you know how many people die a year? 2 million.
It's incredible.
So 50 people died at Chernobyl. And here we are running away from nuclear.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But that's humans. We're so weird like that.
Germany is the craziest of all. I mean, they are smart people. I thought they were mathematical geniuses. Engineering.
Well, explain what you're talking about, because a lot of people probably don't even know that they shut down.
They originally built 20-some reactors in the 70s, and they were doing very fine with it, and no problems. And now they've shut them all down because the Green Party, which is a political party, Green Party, which is also pro-war, pro-NATO. It's very strange. Green Party, it's a hybrid. Anyway, they came into power, and it's a democracy, and they don't want any nuclear. So they shut down all their plants that were working. And we show that in the film.
It's insane.
And what did they go with? They replaced it with coal and gas, and as a result, and a lot of solar and a lot of turbines. In fact, if you look at the solar park that they built a gigantic solar park in Germany, 495,000 panels. 490. Can you imagine that? 500 acres. 495,000 panels. That's enormous. And that park, they took down a nuclear reactor in the area. That one was about 100 acres, but it was producing about 100 times more electricity than this 500 acres on 1/5 the land.
Not